Good evening. Thank you for joining us for the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. We'll get started for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. In the event of a fire or other emergency, please follow the exit signs that are provided in this room and throughout Town Hall. Upon exiting this room, the main exits are located to the front and rear of this building. Do not use the elevator during an emergency event. This meeting is being recorded and will be streamed live online at amherstny.qmt.com. Could I get a call to order and a call of the roll? Present.
Vice Chair.
Present.
Member Phillips. Present. Member Parker.
Present.
Thank you. We've all received the minutes to the December 19th meeting. Could I get a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
Any opposed? Those minute meetings are approved. I understand that the petitioner for the first hearing is not at the meeting yet, so we will skip that for now and take that at the end of the meeting. The second meeting, we have had a request by the petitioner to adjourn that item at this meeting. Could I get a motion for that?
Moved.
Second.
Any opposed? Thank you. The third item is 6040 North Bailey Avenue. The petitioner, feel free to begin.
I'm just going to make a comment, if I may. Items 3, 4, 5, and 6 are Benderson items. I represent Benderson, and accordingly, I'm going to recuse myself.
Good evening, Chairman, members of the board. Matthew Oates with Benderson Development. First, I would like to say we are proposing to withdraw one of the variance applications. It is the 0-yard setback on the north right-of-way line along Romney Road. We are no longer requesting that variance. We are still requesting the other variances. We are requesting a variance application. Tom, would you be able to move to the next slide for me for Amherst Development Park? We are requesting variances in two locations. One is along the east property line here, right-of-way line along North Bailey Ave, and the second is along the south property line. The setback request on the east property line is 0 when 10 is required, and the setback is 5.5 on the south line where 10 is also required. The variance along the eastern property line was previously presented to the board and was approved in December of 2020. So for the east property line, this is a request for reapproval from the board for that variance. In regards to the variance for the south line, this goes in conjunction with Benderson and Delta Sonic's proposal to relocate our offices to this campus. We would have the Benderson and Delta Sonic offices on this campus, along with the Delta Sonic Regional Warehouse and Soap Blending Facility in this area. This setback variance allows for us to have an additional 71 parking spaces on this side of the site, which is critical to us being able to relocate to this campus and have our offices there. Further, for the variance that was previously granted on the east side, that also allows for an expansion of parking in this area as well under a license agreement that has previously been granted by the town to allow for additional parking on that portion of the site. The variance need for the light spillage is to allow this property line area and this parking to be lit, and then the ability to not have the vehicle use screening is because at a 0 setback line, we can't have the screening on the property line because the pavement crosses over. We do believe, and if you want to scroll down 2 more slides, that we do meet the balancing test for this. Previously, for the 0 setback along North Bailey Ave. The board has already reviewed that, previously granted the variance and determined that that did meet the balancing test. For the other one, we don't believe there'll be an undesirable change in the character of the area. There is still going to be a 5.5-foot buffer. There is additional green space on the adjacent property as well. We are still going to be able to install the necessary buffers in that area as well. And if, once that is installed, once you stand out there, you would not actually be able to discern that the parking was put closer to the property line than what code allowed. Can the benefit be achieved without the variance? It can't be. We need to pick up the additional parking on this site so we are able to relocate our offices and the Delta Sonic warehouse to this property. Is the requested variance substantial? We do not believe that it is substantial. Even with reducing the setback, we are still able to meet all of the screening requirements that are in the code for that section as well. Will it have an adverse impact on the neighborhood? We don't believe that it will. This is an existing commercial development. There is already parking in that area. There's already a drive lane in that area as well. And again, we will then still be able to keep the screening that is required per code. And is the hardship self-created? Why it may be self-created, that is not grounds for the board to deny the variance application. Be happy to go over any questions the board has in regards to this application.
I just have a quick question, just to verify you are withdrawing which,
So, Tom, if you go back one more. So we're going to withdraw the request for a 0 setback on the north line along Romney. We are still requesting the 0 that was previously granted along North Bailey, and then the 5.5-foot on the south side as well, along with the light spillage and the vehicle use screening, not being able to meet that.
and could you explain a little bit more the variance you're requesting for the foot candles?
So yes, so the parking along the front here, the parking is actually, through the license agreement, is in the North Bailey right-of-way. So to install light and then actually have light on these parking stalls here, the light has to then cross the property line because the right-of-way line runs at the back side of the parking. So that is why to get adequate lighting on those parking spaces. And then for the screening, while there is additional room to do some landscaping along the front in addition to the sidewalk, it is not at the property line per code, so that is why we're requesting that variance as well. And again, those variances for that section are a reapproval that we're requesting from December of 2020.
Does anyone on the board have any questions for the petitioner? All right, thank you. Is any member of the public here to speak on this item? You would have to come to the podium and make sure your name and address is written down on the sheet on there.
Yeah, my name is Jerry DeCosmo. I live on Meyer Road. And my only question is, because of all the development that's the proposed development on the Costco, et cetera, is this going to affect traffic? And I guess I just don't understand. Are we widening towards North Bailey more? Are we going to widen North Bailey because of traffic implications from the other projects? Obviously, though, that road is very busy. Is this going to affect that at all? The ability to widen North Bailey? That's just my question.
So this is not the proper venue to raise those questions. We are making a determination on the application that the petitioner has brought forward. However, we can give the petitioner the ability to respond to those comments. And perhaps talking about any increase in traffic or anything like that that might occur.
So there would be a small increase in traffic. There is additional square footage that would be proposed as part of a site plan application here, and then also in this area as well for the warehouse. The remaining space there is current office space as well. So it has all been previously looked at in regards to what is needed for traffic impacts, things like that, when this was initially approved from the site plan stage. We are proposing to have additional parking stalls there. That is needed based on our overall number of employees, so there would be then some additional traffic that is there. There is a lot of vacant space currently there that we would be taking that is previous. And then the parking stalls in here, these would be under a license agreement with the town of Amherst, that the town of Amherst has the right to revoke at any point they want if there was any sort of road widening or anything else that needed to be done. I do not believe, and Dan, please correct me if I'm wrong, that there is any road widening currently planned for North Bailey.
That is correct. Mr. Chairperson, for the benefit of the woman that had posed the question, the proposed addition will be handled by our planning board, presumably in February, as well as any other modifications to the site. There's a pending site plan application. If you go to our pending development projects page on the town webpage, you can learn about those projects, as well as a pending rezoning request that is being considered for the proposed reuse of that southwesterly building where they have the Delta Sonic logo. So I encourage you to look at our pending development projects page. You can come into our office as well, learn about both of those projects.
All right, thank you. I'll take any comments that the board may have or any motions that anyone may have. We're going to close the hearing first, and now we'll take a motion or any comments that the board may have. Got a first and a second. Is there anyone opposed? Member Schubert has abstained, so the item has passed 3-0 with one abstention.
Thank you very much.
All right. Now we have the fourth item on the agenda, that is signage related to 3030 Niagara Falls Boulevard. Is the petitioner?
For the record, Matthew Oates with Benderson Development. We are requesting a variance for 3030 Niagara Falls Boulevard. It is the former Classic Fence site that is adjacent to the Delta Sonic at the former Many Nursery. We kind of refer to it as the Chipotle property. The variance request is to increase the allowable overall signage on the site from 142.5 feet from the 247.5 that is permitted by code to 389.9 square feet. The reason that we are proposing the increase in allowable square footage is because there is a connection in the rear that allows the Chipotle property to connect to the Delta Sonic to then actually access the existing traffic signal that is at the entrance to Delta Sonic on Niagara Falls Boulevard. So we are proposing a building directory on what would be the northwest back corner of the building, facing the access coming from Delta Sonic. So it's to the back side of the property, not really visible from the right-of-way, so that when people are coming from the Delta Sonic property, they are aware of the tenants that are in that building. In addition, we are also proposing directory signs as well on the property. These 3 signs are specifically directing traffic on the Chipotle building to then utilize the Delta Sonic property to access the traffic signal. Our hope with that is to minimize, really more during peak hours, anyone making a left turn onto Niagara Falls Boulevard. For this property, it's a much safer turning movement to go onto the Delta Sonic property and make the left. One of the main reasons when we were getting this site plan approved with the town, and that was pushed by the planning department, was to put this cross connection in and to really tie this property into the Delta Sonic property to really take advantage of the traffic signal that's there. And it's been done in addition to that with the other properties that are also on that frontage as well. The McDonald's now has access into the back, so they can then access that traffic signal, and trying to take that whole portion of that site to really utilize that traffic signal to make everything overall safer. If this second connection, if this was actually a public street in the back and not just a connection to a private property, the variance wouldn't be needed because we would have additional street frontage, and then we would be allowed the additional signage, and then our proposal would actually fall under what is overall allowed by code. We do believe that the variance meets the town law balancing test. We do not believe that an undesirable change would occur This is existing commercial development. It's an existing built-out building that's there. It's next to Delta Sonic. It's adjacent to other commercial buildings. And again, as I stated, if this was actually tying into a public street, it would have the second frontage, which then, based on town code, would increase the allowable square footage for this property, since that is based on the street frontage, and then we would no longer be needing this additional. Can the benefit be achieved without the variance? The benefit cannot be. We cannot have the additional directional signage on the building identifying the tenants coming in from the Delta Sonic property. We can't have the additional directional signage that then directs traffic on that site to actually access the traffic signal itself, which then leads to a safer movement overall. Is the variance substantial? We do not believe it is. It is substantial. While it is increasing the overall square footage in relation to other square footage that is allowed by other properties, what the town has granted for additional square footage on other properties as well, we do not believe that it's substantial. Will it have an adverse impact or effect? We don't believe it will. Based on the area it's in, there's other buildings, the Key Bank right next door that has 2 building signs. There's other buildings along Niagara Falls Boulevard, the T-Mobile building further south, the Verizon building, that also have multiple building signs. So this is a condition with the directory signs where a lot of buildings have multiple building signs, so it's not something that is unusual. And in fact, the wayfinding directional signage will actually be an improvement for the area, because it'll let people know that they can access a traffic signal that gets them onto Niagara Falls Boulevard at the Delta Sonic property. If it's someone who's come to the area, maybe to going through Chipotle, they're not familiar with it, they'll know if Niagara Falls Boulevard looks busy, oh, I can go to a traffic signal over there. So overall, that is actually an improvement. And is the hardship self-created? We don't necessarily think it is, because it is a unique property in that it has a second connection onto another adjacent private property owner, not a public street, to then access a traffic signal. So that's a very unique situation within the town. And then just one other point, we are going to be filing for a unified development between the Delta Sonic and this property as well. That will then eliminate the fact that this would be considered an off-premise sign. So just so the board is aware of that. Happy to answer any questions that the board has in this regard.
Does any board member have a question for the petitioner? Is any member of the public here to speak on this item? All right, the public hearing is closed. I will take any comment or a motion from a member of the board. We got a motion and a second. All in favor? Any abstentions? Abstain. All right, that has passed 3-0 with a 1 abstention. We have the 5th item on the agenda regarding to signage for 3100 Niagara Falls Boulevard.
For the record, Matthew Oates with Benderson Development and Delta Sonic Car Wash. This one goes hand in hand with the previous application. This is a request to increase the allowable signage on the Delta Sonic by 9 square feet. Currently, based on a previous variance that was granted, the Delta Sonic is allowed 1,342.77 square feet. So it's a request for 9 additional square feet. We would like to install a directional sign at this location here, so that people utilizing the traffic signal on Niagara Falls Boulevard are aware that the access into the Chipotle property is via this driveway here. So that is why we're looking, again, for some additional wayfinding signage to help direct traffic in that area. In regards to the town law balancing test, we do believe that it meets the standards as well. I don't believe that undesirable change would occur. Again, it's on an existing Delta Sonic property. It's adjacent to other commercial property. It's consistent with the signage that has been constructed in that area. It is an attractive sign. If you actually, Tom, would you mind scrolling back one slide? This is the sign that we're proposing, so we do believe it is an attractive sign that fits in with the area and what's been built out there as well. Thank you. Can the benefit be achieved without the variance? It cannot be. We would not have the ability to install this additional signage without getting the additional square footage. Is the variance substantial? We don't believe it is. Based on the previous variance that was granted for Delta Sonic, This is requesting an increase of less than 1% in the overall square footage that is allowed on that property. Will it have an adverse impact? We don't believe it will. In fact, we do believe it will actually have a benefit to the area because it will provide additional directional signage so people know coming from that traffic signal that they can access the tenants that are on that property as well. And it just makes for vehicular circulation around the property much better. And then is the hardship self-created? We again believe it falls, as I stated before, that it is not self-created. It is a unique property. The Delta Sonic has access to the traffic signal. The Chipotle property is separate, but it does have access that way. And during the overall site plan approval process, it was pushed to really make sure this all tied in to allow all these properties here to safely access the signal to just help the overall traffic flow in Niagara Falls Boulevard in this area. And happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Thank you. Does any member of the board have a question for the petitioner? All right, thank you. Does any member of the public have a comment on this matter? All right, thank you. The hearing is now closed. Does any member of the board have a comment or want to make a motion on this item? Motion by Member Gurian, second by Member Phillips. All in favor? Any opposed? Any abstentions? It's passed 3-0 with one abstention. The sixth item on the agenda, 1138 Millersport Highway. That is regarding signage.
Again, for the record, Matthew Oates with Benderson Development. We are requesting to install signage on the dumpster enclosure at the Homewood Suites on Millersport Highway right in this area. The property is unique in that their area in red is a gas easement that runs the full length of Millersport Highway and covers all of the green space, all of the parking, and does not allow the installation of any structures in there. So while a sign would be allowed by code, we do not have anywhere to put that sign. In addition, when this hotel was initially constructed, signage on these enclosures was actually allowed. So the sign has actually been on this enclosure for approximately the last 15 years. We're going through a rebranding with the hotel, the Homewood Suites in Hilton. They want to have new signage, new graphics for there. So we took down the sign, we applied for the variant, or applied for the building permit to put back up the sign, and was then told that it was no longer allowed, so we had to get the variance. We do believe it is an attractive looking sign. This is what is proposed. If we were able to construct a freestanding sign, the overall square footage of the sign is less than what is allowed by code, so we're not requesting any additional square footage over what is allowed. And again, there has been signage on this enclosure for the past 15, 18 years for when the hotel has been operating, and it's just because from when this was constructed through today, the town code changed to no longer permit signage on enclosures because I believe the town saw it as something that there was gonna be more signage put on enclosures that was visible from the right of way. They wanted to kind of minimize that, and this is definitely, for variances, a unique situation. In regards to the balancing test, we absolutely think it meets the standards. Would an undesirable change occur? It would not. It's an existing hotel, and in fact, the sign has been there for the past 15 years. The existing sign would have been allowed to remain. The only reason we need the variance is because Hilton is requiring us to rebrand, so as soon as the old sign comes down, we're no longer allowed to put up a new sign to replace it, so we need the variance for that. Can the benefit be achieved without the variance? No, it cannot be. As I showed, we don't have anywhere along the road to actually put a sign. There's a gas easement there that prohibits us from installing any structures along the right-of-way, so there's no way to actually install a sign there. So this is the only way we can get the Homewood Suites sign on Millersport Highway, which is the road frontage and the access for this hotel. Is the variance request substantial? We don't believe it is. Again, the size that we're proposing is less than what would actually be allowed on a separate freestanding sign at that property if we had anywhere that we could install it. And again, The sign has existed for years with no issues. Will it have an adverse effect, impact on the neighborhood? It would not. It's been there for 15 years. I think that's actually the best way to balance that test on something like this. It's been there for years. There have been no issues, so clearly it does meet that test. And is the hardship self-created for this one? We also do not believe it is self-created. The town code has changed since the sign was initially installed. We're trying to just update to a new sign with new branding for the same hotel and replace what was already there. And that gas easement has been there, and there's no way to actually install a sign along the right-of-way. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that the board has.
Does anyone on the board have a question for the petitioner? Is any member of the public here to speak on this item? All right, thank you. The hearing is now closed. Does any member of the board have a comment or want to make a motion on this item? Motion by Member Gergen, second by Member Phillips. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passed 3-0 with one abstention.
Thank you very much, and I am now done. I have no more applications.
Thank you. And then we are going to return back to the first item of the agenda, 4174 Bailey Avenue. This is regarding a sign setback. Could you write your name and address on the sheet right there if you haven't already?
Yes, my name is Rocco Santoro. Representing Jim Pacciotti of the owner of the Bocce Club Pizzeria on 4174 Bailey Avenue. Applying for a variance to supply a LED lighted changeable copy board. It's 48 by 72 inches, double face. The sign is the top sign is already existing, so we're installing this underneath the existing sign. Any questions you have, I'll be glad to try to clarify for you.
Does any member of the board have a question for the petitioner?
I really didn't hear a word.
You didn't hear me?
I don't know, it might be easier just to speak into the microphone.
Yes. I'm applying for a variance for a electronic message center. It's 48 by 60 inches for Jim Pacciotti, which is the owner of the Bocce Club Pizzeria at 4174 Bailey Avenue.
So the top part of the sign where it says Bocce Club Pizza, that's already existing and that would stay.
Yes.
So you're looking to add in the part that actually says that Best Pizza in Buffalo, that would be the LED portion.
Right.
So the reason that the petitioner is requesting a variance is because of their proximity to a residential neighborhood. The zoning ordinance requires 500 feet of separation of a parcel with 500 feet of separation. This variance would be 0 feet. Would the petitioner accept a condition that the LED could not be on during non-business hours?
I can specify that, yes. The business hours are at nighttime, so pretty much.
Could you repeat yourself, please?
I believe his business hours are at nighttime. So I'm not sure the time frame that he should have that off.
So we're just looking to, I'm just looking to protect the residents of the neighborhood who may not want to have a LED sign on during all hours of the day. So my suggested condition on this would be to not allow the sign to be on when the business was not open.
I can inform them of that, or you can send a letter. I do not know that.
Could we back up just a minute? Where is the residential district?
Where is the what?
I mean, that's really the issue.
Yeah, so the entire property is surrounded by a residential district. To the east of the premises, it is zoned R3 residential, and then to the west. The way the statute is written, any parcel that is abutting such district cannot have a sign if that parcel is within 500 feet. So it's a constraint of the ordinance. It's not necessarily where the sign is, it's where the parcel is adjacent to the,
So that White House to the left in the picture is in a residential district?
Thomas, can you pull up our zoning ordinance? Or our zoning map, rather? I believe that's a non-conforming dwelling. Member Schubert, I believe it's in a general business district, but we can confirm that right now.
Lots of windows.
Yeah. But surely they would be impacted by
If it's
a
a
sign lit
residence.
all evening, even 24/7.
I guess we're talking about 4170.
So it appears that it is in a general business district as a non-conforming dwelling.
Okay. So then where are the residences? Across the street?
The residences are across the street, and then the residences to the west are that purple shaded area. That's all residential zoning district as well.
Right. I guess my question is, what impact would the sign have on people across the street? If any?
It's just, I don't know why it's doing that. But you can move it and see if it corrects it.
Is it going, I'm assuming it's gonna be LED on both sides, so traffic approaching from either direction
Yes.
can see this. Do you know what kind of messaging the owner intends to put up? Is it going to be, static kind of images for a period of time, or per day, or change whenever you hit it, or?
You can specify that if you want to, but I think it's a electronic message center that can be changed at will.
Sign.
Could
I
you
have no
repeat
idea
yourself?
what to say.
Pardon me?
Could you repeat yourself, please?
It's an electronic message center that can be changed at will. These are computerized, and you can put a message on at any time. You can change it 10 times a day if he wants to. I don't
So-
think he'll do that, but
I was unclear on your answer to the prior question about whether it would be turned off during non-business hours. Was that a yes or no?
I would say if he's not open, he would turn it off, naturally.
I can't hear.
You can't hear me?
What?
I don't think there's a commitment on that yet,
Okay.
so, but it looks like the hours of operation are until 10 PM, except for on Fridays and Saturdays, until 11. Oh, midnight on Friday.
Is there any member of the public here to speak on this item? You come to the podium. Could you write down your name and your address on the sheet above?
Hi, my name is Bob Stockdale. I live at 300 Maynard Drive. That front sign there is visible from all the back windows in my house, which are all bedroom windows on the second floor. That sign, last I can remember, is on until like 2 or 3 a.m. and it does put light into mine and my children's bedroom windows. I'm definitely concerned about adding more light there, especially if there's no commitment on shutting that off at the end of business hours. Yeah, and I guess the other thing I would like to say is I got this letter in my mailbox 2 hours ago and was barely able to make it here. It says it was postmarked on the 5th, but didn't get to me till today. That's pretty short notice. That's it.
Thank you. Is there any comments that you would like to make in response?
It's a pizzeria, so he likes to advertise his products.
All right, thank you. You have a question?
I just can't hear anything, but that really answered my question in terms of what Mr. Bray was saying also in terms of what effect will it have on the residential properties. So I guess maybe as some sort of a condition, maybe off at 11 p.m. or something like that, or,
I'm struggling with it. It's so close to homes.
yeah,
And, you know, beauty is, it's a pizzeria in a neighborhood.
yeah.
It's a no brainer. But not a sign that close to homes, I'm really struggling with it, even with limitations. I'm not, you know, I don't know if it's pizzeria themselves, there's certainly not anything in the application indicating if there's anything similar in that corridor, not to say it would be dispositive, but at least for me. But
So we'll officially close the hearing.
Okay.
What I would like the members to know that in our statute, there are time limitations with respect to between each display. The displays have to come on instantaneously. They can't flash in, they can't fade in, they can't roll movies. And between each changeover, it's a minimum of a 10-minute duration, if that should help you in your deliberations.
They're also, sorry, they're also prohibited from using any like flashing lights, or it has to be static for a 10-minute period.
So, where I'm at, you know, is I don't feel comfortable with moving on this at this meeting. If the other members are in agreement, and that we would request that the owner appear at the next meeting to discuss any conditions that we may have.
You would request the owner to come to the next variance meeting?
I can't hear you again.
Yeah, so it would be at the next meeting,
Mhm.
and that would be on February 13th.
February 13th?
Could I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by member Sherbert, second by member Gorgon. All in favor? Aye. All right, that motion has been approved, and we'll adjourn that meeting, that item to the next meeting. Before we adjourn for the night, I would just like to go over the meeting schedule for the zoning board. The next meeting would be February 13th, then March 19th, April 16th, May 14th, June 18th. The July meeting would be to be determined, August 13th, September 17th. The October meeting would be to be determined, November 19th, and then January 14th, 2025. Could I get a motion to sign the approval of the meeting schedule?
So moved.
Second.
Member Schubert made the motion, member Phillips seconded. All in favor? Aye. All right, thank you very much. Meeting is adjourned.
move to adjourn.
But Motion to adjourn made by Member Phillips,
Second.
second by Member Gorgon. All in favor? Aye. Thank you.